Madam President, thank you, Undersecretary General Rosemary DiCarlo and Director General Rafael Grossi for your briefing. Yesterday, Israel took unilateral action against
political and peace-building affairs. We thank
the Islamic
Mr. Carlo
Republic
and the Director
of Iran's
General of the
regime
IAEA,
has,
Ms. Grossi. We thank them for their
since
briefings.
its founding, repeatedly
First of
called
all,
for the state of
we would
Israel's
like to
eradication.
express our
Launched
condolences to the leadership and the people of
direct
the Islamic
and
Republic
proxy
of
attacks
Iran, having
on
to do with the
Israeli
numerous
civilians
victims,
spread terror,
including amongst civilians, which were the result of Israeli action.
Human suffering throughout the
In
region.
front of our eyes, because of Israeli
speak,
action, what is
Iran
happening
is
is a very
firing
dangerous
missiles at
escalation in the Middle
civilian
East
areas
region, and this is
across
something that
Israel,
requires an immediate attention
including
from this Council.
in Tel
We
Aviv.
are grateful to the Guyana presidency
President
for
Trump
convening
has
this meeting of ours
repeatedly
so
said,
expeditiously.
this
It's symptomatic
dangerous
that
regime
initially the
cannot
Council was
be
to
allowed
consider
to
today,
have
at this
nuclear
very
weapons.
time, the humanitarian
Israel
consequences of
advised
inhumane
us
actions by
action
Israel
was
against the
necessary
people in the Gaza
for
Strip.
its self-defense.
Instead of that,
Every
we
sovereign
are here
nation
having to
has the
discuss a
right
new,
to defend
most
itself,
dangerous and
and
irresponsible
Israel is
adventure
no
by
exception.
West Jerusalem in the region. But
The
this
United
time,
States was
it is also
informed
pushing the
of
region
the
to a
strikes ahead of
large-scale
time.
nuclear
It was
catastrophe.
not
In the early
militarily
hours of the
involved
13th of
in
June,
these
Israel
strikes.
delivered a number
Our
of extensive
absolute
strikes against the
foremost
territory of the
priority
Islamic
is the
Republic of Iran.
protection of U.S.
Peaceful
citizens,
sleeping cities were
personnel,
struck,
and forces
civilian infrastructure, and the
in the
peaceful
region.
nuclear installations
As Secretary
under
Rubio said,
IAEA safeguards.
Iran should not
We
target
heard from the
U.S.
briefers today
interests
that there have been victims
personnel.
amongst civilians. This completely unprovoked attack,
Let me be
no
crystal
matter
clear.
what Israel says to the
No
contrary,
government,
is a gross violation
proxy,
of the UN Charter
or
and international
independent
law.
actor should
One is
target
left with the impression that the
American
leadership of
citizens,
Israel is convinced
American
that they have a
bases,
completely free
or
hand
other
in the region,
American
and they probably think
infrastructure
that
in the
Israel
region.
can flout any legal norms
consequences
and
for
replace
Iran
all international
would be dire.
bodies, including the Security
President
Council
Trump
and IAEA.
was elected
The
with a
Russian Federation
sweeping
strongly
mandate from the
condemns
American
this
people
action by West
to
Jerusalem.
advance peace
West Jerusalem's
and to
military
avoid
adventure
the
pushes the
grave
region to the
mistakes
brink of a
of past
large-scale war,
administrations
and the
that
responsibility
led
for
to
all of the
forever
consequences
wars.
of these actions lies
We
fully
seek
with the
a
Israeli
secure
leadership
peace.
and those who encourage them.
As President
We
Trump
are particularly
said,
concerned by the
violence
potential
should come
radiological
to an
consequences
end,
of hitting
and
nuclear
Iran
installations.
should make a deal
My country
so that there
has
is,
for a
quote,
number of
no more
years
death,
been warning and
no more
saying that trying
destruction,
to resolve by
close quote.
force the issues surrounding the Iran
The United
nuclear
States
program are
will
unacceptable
continue to
as they
seek
can lead to the
a
most dire
diplomatic
consequences, not
resolution
just the Middle East
that
region, but for the
ensures
world as a
Iran
whole.
will never
But
acquire
these
a nuclear
calls
weapon
of ours were
or
not
pose a
heeded,
threat
and the
to
situation is
stability
now
in the Middle
following the
East.
most negative and
Iran's
unpredictable
leadership
scenario.
would be
Madam
wise
President,
to negotiate
Israeli
at this
actions
time.
are aimed
Thank
at
you.
undermining
President,
the various
thank you,
negotiating
Undersecretary
efforts
General
underway
Rosemary
now,
DiCarlo
the
and Director
efforts
General Rafael
to
Grossi for your
lower
briefing.
the tensions surrounding
Yesterday,
Iran's peaceful
Israel
nuclear
took
program. The whole
unilateral
world
action
is looking with
against
hope for
Iran.
the outcome of yet another
The Islamic
round of
Republic
indirect
of
contacts
Iran's
between Iran and the
regime
United
has,
States, and they were
since
planned
its
for the
founding,
15th of June.
repeatedly
Israel
called
decided to
for the state
preempt
of
this in the way
Israel's
they deemed necessary
eradication.
and started bombing the
Launched
nuclear and
unprovoked,
energy infrastructure
direct,
in Iran,
and
showing
proxy
this way their
attacks
contempt
on
for laws,
Israeli
norms,
civilians
agreements,
and
rules,
spread terror,
everything that is the basis
instability,
for a
and
civilized
untold
interaction
human
between
suffering
states.
throughout the region.
But the responsibility
As we
for what
speak,
happened is not just
Iran
with the
is
state of
firing
Israel, but
missiles
also
at
on its
civilian
closest
areas
allies.
across
This
Israel,
is a direct consequence
including
of
in
Western
Tel Aviv.
countries' acquiescence, who for months knowingly
President
and
Trump
methodically
has
pumped
repeatedly
up
said,
anti-Iran
this
hysteria in
dangerous
the UN
regime
Security Council and
cannot
in the Board of
be
Governors
allowed
of
to have
IAEA.
nuclear weapons.
The states didn't even
President,
try to come up with a
thank you,
constructive solution to the
Undersecretary
crisis
General Rosemary
surrounding the
DiCarlo
Joint Comprehensive
and
Plan
Director
of
General
Action
Rafael
and
Grossi
the Security
for your
Council
briefing.
Resolution 2231, which
Yesterday,
endorsed it.
Israel took
Their goal was
unilateral
completely
action
different.
against Iran.
It was to put pressure on Iran and in any way possible to paint Iran as the source of all the trouble in the region and to baselessly present the reciprocal legitimate steps by Tehran when they try to trigger the protection mechanisms in JCPOA as violating the obligations under non-proliferation.
Instability, and
The
untold
Iranians
human
took this
suffering
for
throughout the
years
region.
and did not reject
As we
interacting
speak,
with IAEA, nor
Iran is
did move
firing
away from a
missiles
dialogue
at
so as to
civilian
find
areas
negotiated
across
solutions. I would like to
Israel,
recall here,
including
and this is of
in
principal
Tel Aviv.
importance now, that all of the issues
As
having to
President
do
Trump
with
has repeatedly
JCPOA
said,
began when the
this
United States
dangerous
unilaterally
regime
left the nuclear deal in
cannot
2018.
be allowed to have
And
nuclear
also because of the
weapons.
principled unwillingness
Israel
by the UK, France, and
advised
Germany to
us
comply
this
with the
action
obligations
was
they have
necessary
under
for
JCPOA,
its
including to
self-defense.
create the conditions
Every
for
sovereign
Tehran
nation
to receive
has
the
the right
material
to
yield
defend
from the
itself,
lifting of
and Israel
unilateral
is no
sanctions
exception.
by the EU in force
The
until
United States
2015.
was informed
And
of the
later,
strikes ahead of time,
they
but was
even went
not
so far as to
militarily
resume
involved
unilateral
in these
sanctions,
strikes.
which runs counter
Our
to Article
absolute
25 of the
foremost
Charter. The European
priority
Union also
is the
joined in with
protection
pressure,
of US
disregarding thus
citizens,
their duty of
personnel,
impartial coordinator
and
of the
forces
joint JCPOA
in the
Commission.
region.
The most
As Secretary
egregious
Rubio
example was
Iran should
what
not
happened in Vienna
target
yesterday.
US
Yet another
interests
biased and divorced from
or personnel.
reality resolution passed by the Board of Governors of IAEA,
Let me
which
be
talks
crystal clear.
about some
No government,
trumped-up threat to
proxy,
international peace and
or
security
independent
from
actor
the Iran nuclear
should
program.
target
And this happened
American
despite the fact that
citizens,
Iran is strictly
American bases,
complying with its
or other
obligations under
American
NPT and under the
infrastructure
Comprehensive
in the
Safeguards
region.
Agreements. And
The
despite the fact
consequences
that Iran
for
remains
Iran
the
would be
most
dire.
inspected IAEA states,
President
and
Trump
the reports of
was
IAEA
elected
Secretariat say
with a
state
sweeping
clearly that
mandate
there is
from the
no
American people
non-proliferation risk.
to
In
advance
other words,
peace
the Western
and to avoid
participants
the
to the
grave
JCPOA have
mistakes
been doing
of past
everything to
administrations
fuel the
that led to
escalation and essentially
forever wars.
incited it.
We seek a
They
secure
artificially
peace.
created tension
As
in
President Trump
international
said,
platforms,
the
and this
violence
only
should come
provided
to an
Israel with
end,
additional impetus
and
for
Iran
radical steps
should
and
make a
created
deal
the
so
feeling
that
of
there is,
impunity with Israel.
quote, no more
In the
death,
context of the current
no
strikes
more
by Israel,
destruction,
what we
close
noticed
quote.
is the information mass media
The United
about the fact
States
that there was
will
likely
continue
coordination
to
between
seek
Israel and
a
British special
diplomatic
services.
resolution
Immediately after
that
the Israeli
ensures
strikes,
Iran
they
will
sheltered
never
the
acquire
Israeli
a nuclear
aviation which
weapon
participated
or
in the
pose a
strikes in their
threat to
bases in
stability
Cyprus.
in the Middle
We also
East.
noticed the statement made by
Iran's
Israel when they
leadership
said
would
that
be wise
they
to negotiate
warned about their
at this
attacks.
time. Thank you.
They warned Germany,
Madam President,
JCPOA participant,
thank you,
and Italy.
Undersecretary General
It
Rosemary
also came
DiCarlo
to the
and Director
fore
General Rafael
that
Grossi for your
our
briefing.
American colleagues also had information
Yesterday,
about the strikes.
Israel
The
took
Israeli
unilateral
strikes
action
were
against
also
Iran.
supported by the French,
The
who clearly
Islamic
knew about them
Republic
beforehand.
of Iran's regime
And we will
has,
not be surprised
since its
here if the
founding,
members of this group of
repeatedly
like-minded
called
states
for the
will
state of
start
Israel's eradication,
condemning
launched unprovoked,
Iran for
direct,
their actions,
and
which they
proxy
undertook fully in
attacks
line with
on
Article
Israeli
51 of the Charter.
civilians, and
We
spread
are
terror,
following very closely the current
instability,
situation with the
and
IAEA
untold
Secretariat.
human
The life
suffering
and health
throughout the
of
region.
its personnel has
As
been
we
threatened
speak,
by the Israeli
Iran is
military
firing
adventure, and we
missiles
expect
at
that the Director
civilian
General
areas
of the agency is going to
across
provide us
Israel,
with objective assessment
including
and analysis
in Tel
of
Aviv.
developing the situation, including from the
As President
viewpoint
Trump
of
has
radiological
repeatedly said,
consequences.
this
Madam
dangerous
President, the
regime
unprovoked attacks
cannot
against the territory
be
of sovereign
allowed to
Iran,
have nuclear
the
weapons.
targeted strikes on
Israel
the peaceful nuclear
advised us
facilities
this
cannot
action was necessary
cannot be justified in
for
any
its
way. The
self-defense.
international community cannot and
Every
should not
sovereign
stand
nation
idly by when
has the
such a
right
provocation
to
presents
defend
itself.
and Israel
Tolerating such
is no
actions is a sure
The United
way
States
to
was
large-scale
informed
war
of
and a
the
serious
strikes
threat
ahead
to
of
global
time,
security. We're
but was
convinced
not
that the Security
militarily
Council
involved in
has to
these
provide an
strikes.
unequivocal legal and
Our
political
absolute
assessment of what's been done by
foremost
Israel, and also
priority
call for an
is the
immediate halt
protection
to any
of
kind
US
of pressure by
citizens,
force and for a
personnel,
rejection of
and
practice
forces
of unilateral
in
military
the region.
steps. We need to support
As
any and all
Secretary Rubio said,
diplomatic efforts aimed
Iran
at
should
de-escalation
not
and
target
the return to
US
negotiations.
interests
Let me underscore
or
yet
personnel.
once again that settling issues having to do with the
Let me be
Iranian
crystal
nuclear
clear.
program is
No
only
government,
possible if a
proxy,
peaceful political and
or
diplomatic pathway is
independent
followed.
actor
No
should
forceful
target American citizens,
resolution can be either
American
legitimate
bases,
nor viable here.
or other
By the way,
American
let
infrastructure
me say that the
in the
United
region.
States themselves have
The
stated this
consequences
repeatedly when
for
they
Iran
explained their readiness to
would be
continue with
dire.
negotiations. Russia remains committed to strengthening international law, abiding by the UN Charter and finding solutions which exclude further sliding of the region towards a new destructive war. And we are ready to work with all those who will advocate diplomacy and who will be looking for peaceful means to resolve differences.
As President Trump said,